This has been a project of sorts. I wasn't going to be a one and done scenario. Taking that stomach skin off of me was literally like shedding my skin.
Hey friends, this is the Next Level Glam podcast, and I'm Glam Gal. Thank you for joining me as I discuss all things transformation, inside and out, with my sisters in Christ. Pull up a chair, it's about to go next level.
Hello, beautiful sister in Christ of mine. How are you doing today? Welcome to a new episode of the Next Level Glam podcast with your host, Glam Gal. That'd be me. So excited to see you. I hope that you are doing well. I'm hanging in there. If you're somewhere where it's really, really cold right now, man, we are going through it, aren't we? I hope you can't even hear the heater at my feet. It's so cold in this room, but very excited to sit here and talk to you about a topic I'm very passionate about. It's true. And I mentioned last week how we're going to do a two-part series. This is part one of my round two experience with plastic surgery. The first round I experienced is talked about in the episode Best Booty Life. And I've talked about my surgeon. I've talked about my research. I've talked about how I came to plastic surgery. You can find those episodes on the episode list. And just to catch you up, that was a lipo 360, a BBL, a breast lift, and a fat transfer to the breasts, okay? And like I shared, I had pretty great results with that round. However, this has been a project of sorts. I wasn't going to be a one and done scenario. As I've shared on the podcast, I have a history with like obesity, yo-yo dieting, pregnancy, and things like that. And my body just got to a point where it affected my overall mental health, my self-esteem, things like that. And like I've shared in the podcast also, I always kind of knew I was going to be going this route, but it is kind of neat how full circle things can come when you finally realize you've done some of these things. But about 6 months after my surgery in 2020, I went for my final checkup. He wants to see where you're at, and we want to be on the same page. It was clear that work needed to be done. Now, what I'd like to preface it with is, again, everybody's situation is incredibly different. Your starting point is super different, right? And your goals are super different. So, you might be listening to me or see my story and think to yourself, that's exactly what I need or want, and that's great. But ultimately, you need to get a consult with a board certified plastic surgeon that is an expert so that he can give you a personalized plan about how to get there. And it's funny because I walked in, like I said, on my first consult, there wasn't enough to go around in terms of I wanted so much done, but you can only get so much done in a round, right? I've shared how getting combo procedures, like how I mixed BBL, lipo, breast lift, some of these combination procedures are possible, but it does make things difficult. It's cheaper, yes, but the recovery can be a little bit more extensive. And so I am going to share today, again, what I did for my round two. And then next week, I'm going to explain the recovery process, what that was all like, because that part is truly the most important part that I'd like to share, because it's what the world really doesn't see, right? Like they just see the before and after. They don't really see the trenches that you go through to get to where you're at. In December of 2020, it was 6 months since that surgery, and I had a lot of loose skin because I did not take care of the loose skin. I used that round to suck out as much fat as possible and to form or start forming a butt and some shaping, and also just give my boobs a lift. It made a huge difference to the point where it encouraged me to really, really push hard to maximize those results. So I actually lost some weight. I had the loose skin that was left. A lot of surgeons aren't going to recommend people that have loose skin to go about lipo and stuff first because it's just going to exacerbate that loose skin issue. A lot of doctors want you to leave confident with your results. But like I said, I needed to use as much fat as possible to build to my goals. So I was, at this situation where it needed to be taken care of. And at that appointment, we decided that, we would look into a few different procedures for the next round. So over the next year at that point, I was grinding really hard at a job to go after the next stage of this transformation. A lot of people know this, a lot of people may not, but we call it like skin removal. And I think my doctor went about it this way because he knew from my consultation and my goals that I was a very committed patient, where I knew I wasn't going to be one and done. I knew that there was going to be steps to get to where I was at. And I have to admit, looking back now, I didn't even really clearly see how this was all going to play out, but it does show how ingenious my surgeon was. And again, my surgeon was Dr. Ramson Azizi in Chicago. This time, what I was going to need was a tummy tuck. That was the main mission of my round two, was a tummy tuck. Now, tummy tuck is a very broad term, okay? Because there are many different kinds of tummy tucks. So when I asked my surgeon about getting a tummy tuck, he clearly was on board. He actually offered me to do something called a mini tuck, which is more of a conservative approach because it only deals with the skin below the belly button, but you keep your natural belly button and it just kind of like gives you more of a natural result. But I decided that I really wanted the best surgical outcome possible. And there are some people who do go and get something called a panelectomy, which is when you have like an apron of skin that's hanging from weight loss. Some people who experience C-sections, I had a C-section. They have this just a hanging flap of skin that they want removed. That's an option for some people. Some insurances may cover that, you know what I mean? But in general, this is all cosmetic and this is all out of pocket, okay? So a panelectomy wasn't going to do it for me. A mini tuck was not going to do it for me, in my opinion. I really thought by the research that I had done that I was going to need a fleur de lis, which is a FDL, is what it's called. And that's when they do a vertical incision that starts like between your breasts and it goes all the way down until it meets your pelvic area. And then they do a horizontal incision across. So it's like two long scars to kind of bring all of that skin together. And I say that because even after lipo and stuff, there was still so much skin above my belly button that I thought that even a normal tummy tuck wouldn't handle it. Like it wouldn't get it really snatched because that was my goal, was to get as snatched as possible. I wanted the really great outline. I wanted like no rolls. As far back as I can remember, every time I sat down, there were like, now I'm not talking just a little bit of skin rolls. I'm talking like rolls where it looked like I had like double boobs. You know what I'm saying? It haunted me for so many years. So I was shocked when my doctor suggested just the normal tummy tuck, which is just the horizontal line at the pelvic area. It deals with the skin just above the belly button and everything below the belly button. And it also included something we call a muscle repair. Now, a muscle repair really is so essential, a well done muscle repair. If you've had kids, if you've gained a lot of weight, those muscles are weak and bulgy. And what they do is tighten it up from the inside like an inner corset. It holds everything super, super tight. Figuring out what your body type is, what your needs are, is going to figure out what kind of skin removal you're going to have in terms of like the abdomen. You're either going to get a panelectomy, a mini tuck, FDL, tummy tuck, extended tummy tuck. Okay. And that's when people have like loose skin that goes outside of that pelvic area and it starts to go around the sides and the back, and they need that lifted skin. They will extend that tummy tuck scar to remove the skin. So the scar is longer than the average tummy tuck. I obviously left that to my plastic surgeon's best judgment for my goals, for the plan, all of that. So we did settle on an MR and a tummy tuck. Now, I also, like I said, had been working on building a booty. And I knew I had fat left to spare. So I got another lipo 360, okay, which is the fat removal of my abdomen, like my back, my sides, and whatever else was left on my trunk to remove. However, because I had lost weight between my round one and my round two, I really didn't have all that much fat like I did the first round. So he had to harvest that from my inner thighs. And I also did the liposuction of my chin. It's actually chin and neck lipo where they put the cannula through an opening right through here. I got mine right through here. And then they remove all of the fat from your chin and neck to give you more of a jawline, which I did not have before that. I really didn't. I had like a moon face. I hardly have a neck. And I really just wanted some movement there. Okay. So I had that removed as well. And what I did with that fat was inject it into my butt, inject it into my hips. So I had another BBL. Okay. And then I also decided to put some of that fat because I didn't want it to go to waste. We've talked about how fat is really like the better filler. It's like liquid gold essentially. So I put some of that fat also in my breasts to enhance those natural results. And then I also decided to get a little experimental and I put some fat in my lips. Somebody who loved filler, I thought it would really take the oomph away from me wanting to get continued lip fillers. And then what I did is I put some fat into the under eye, not directly in the under eye, but like right about here to give me some lift and volume. That's the thing that people don't realize when you do have weight loss, especially beyond a certain age. You lose fat in your face, you do look a little bit older. It does age you a little bit. So I had that going on and I figured, hey, I was there, let's do it anyway, right? So, as you hear, I had a normal tummy tuck, a muscle repair, lipo 360, thigh lipo, a BBL, chin and neck lipo, and then a fat transfer to the breasts, under eyes, and lips, as well as the hips and butt, which is the BBL portion. So, I had a lot going on in this round two. There's a lot I'd like to share, which is why this needs to be a part two series. But people are probably like, isn't one BBL enough? And I would like to state again that your starting point is super imperative to figuring out if it's going to be needed as well as your goals, right? Like I've shared in my first thing, I didn't have a butt. I had like almost a negative butt at that point. And so I really needed that first round to give me something to work with. And then the second round was to really kind of exacerbate those results. What people don't realize is that there are limitations to what you can do. Some people go and they just get the tummy tuck. There are still some doctors who just do the tummy tuck, the muscle repair, whatever. And that's fine. Like if your results are just wanting to enhance your natural body, that's fine. But a lot of people do notice that your result will tend to be a little bit more SpongeBob, a little bit more square if you don't have some liposuction in tandem with your tummy tuck. The weird thing is that unfortunately you have to be careful with how much you lipo, where you lipo during that tummy tuck, because you're using the same kind of blood supply that the tummy tuck uses, and you need really good blood supply to heal correctly. So sometimes you don't get that really great lipo look until you get the tummy tuck first and then go back for lipo. But in general, a lot of doctors, especially on the great candidates, can do both and they have a really, really great result. So it's one of those things where you don't know sometimes till you go through something what else needs to be worked on or how it's going to heal or what you're going to need to get to your goals. It's always one of those things we put a lot of our hopes and high expectations on certain things. And that's why I like to remind people when we talk on these episodes that having realistic expectations, having those understandings with your doctors, that conversation with your doctor is super, super important. And I would also, always say, like, don't pin all your hopes on your results because it's such a long process of even seeing your final results and also understanding that those bodies that you're seeing out there, they probably didn't just have one round of surgery, okay? They probably had a lot of surgery. And that's why it's so important for me to sit here and talk about this because I know there have been people in my DMs. And like I've shared, of course, it came to a lifestyle change of making choices, eating in a calorie deficit, hydrating, working out. But yes, you wouldn't fully see these results, especially in terms of the tummy tuck, had I not done those things. The BBL obviously is not from working out. Like the butt and the body shape that I have is not from working out. That is from liposuction and fat transfer. It's from removing fat and bulk from areas that we don't want it to and putting it in an area that we want to draw more attention to. That's what it's about. I would like to just verify my overall results with those procedures, okay? The tummy tuck with the muscle repair that I had done, which includes like the new belly button, everything, and some lipo. Overall, at the end of, let's say, a year out, okay, that I finally felt okay to start looking at my results. I know that sounds crazy because you're literally going to get off the table and start judging your results from day one. It's hard not to, okay? The mind trick is to remember that you're healing and then do all the things that support a really great result, like eating right, working out when you're cleared to. But I would say at about 12 to 18 months, that's when I felt confident to look at my results. The tummy tuck portion really was beautifully done where for most people, they would be extremely happy with that. And I was. It was a huge difference, guys. Taking that stomach skin off of me was literally like shedding my skin. Yes, that first round, getting some shape to my body and getting a little booty on and some lifted boobies, that did a lot for my mental health, but there was still all of this loose skin that had been grown and gathered, and it wasn't even about the pregnancy. A lot of women get tummy tucks because they had a really wonderful body before kids, and, now they need it removed because kids just threw their body through the windshield. Mine was already ruined before I got pregnant, okay? It just was. So, what that did for me was free me from that image when I looked in the mirror where all of this reminder of eating disorders and emotional mess and just a history of self-hate went out the window. And it was really, really surreal to look down and see, a cute belly button and a six pack. You know what I'm saying? And that in itself made it worthwhile. However, I will say that at the end of that time where I was kind of assessing my results, there were still a couple areas that I felt could be tweaked. And we've talked about that. Like you need your body to heal from what the doctor did before you can see like if there needs to be any tweaks done. And that's totally normal. Tweaks are normal. Revisions are normal. The doctors do the best that they can, but they can never really fully tell how is your skin going to fully retract. It's just all kind of a waiting game. So yes, the tummy tuck for what it worked on was like a 10 out of 10. Okay. But there was still things that I knew I was going to need around three. Okay. Like that's just facts. The lipo 360 portion, my surgeon is a really, really wonderful liposuction doctor. He did a phenomenal job removing as much fat as possible. And, he gave me definitely more projection in the back and more of a slim, thick look, which I'm really, really after. I've always had kind of a thicker thigh. Okay. I knew that thigh lipo is as much as it sounds exciting that you could, ooh, have a little thigh gap or something like that. The thighs are a very tricky area to lipo. The skin isn't as forgiving as other areas when you lipo, okay? If you already have loose skin on your thighs, some skin laxity, you are going to have more skin laxity after a thigh lipo. And that definitely happened to me. It definitely, when I am in workout mode and I am trim and I'm working it, which is not currently where I'm at because we are at the end of winter and those pesky 5 pounds are just following me around. But it left a little bit more of a looseness. And this is why I like to bring this up because it's kind of like you pay for one thing, right? Like you have the booty, but now we have the loose skin or the extra loose skin that we, weren't really banking on. And now we have some kind of nuance that we're kind of thinking about in the future. So I'm grateful that I have the booty. I couldn't have done it without apparently the thigh fat that he harvested. It's not as ample of a fat removal as, say, like the Lipo 360 on your back, sides, and stomach. There are risks in surgery, and even the best surgeons make mistakes. Even the best surgeons come into situations where they have to like handle it by the seat of their pants as they're learning and growing. And you want to make sure that your doctor is confident with that cannula because, again, it could hit organs. You could have some kind of other issue. I've seen some weird things pop up where I wouldn't have even thought that that would have happened. You can get fibrosis, which is extreme scar tissue, and people don't realize that the more that you lipo, the more scar tissue that's formed. And, there's only so many times realistically that you can lipo back to back. That's kind of like hard for the doctor to get that cannula through that scar tissue. So this all kind of plays into your recovery and your results. And that's why it's just so important. I know I'm making it sound so easy. Like I had lipo again, another BBL, all this other stuff. There was a lot to consider and a lot that I went through to kind of get through that surgery. But would it have been nice if I never would have had to lipo my thighs? Probably, because, down the line, I'm probably looking at some kind of thigh lift or something. But honestly, all things considered, I'm really, really happy with the round two. Building the booty was successful. The flat stomach was successful, but I was left with some fatty skin underneath my breasts because, like I said, even before surgery, even after my first round of surgery, I had kind of like all of this double booby stuff underneath. We call it like the B body from the side, where like under the breast you have like this B separation in your abdomen, which I always hated. It was always there. It wasn't like my stomach was just one like straight line to remove. I had like this tension in a roll. Like I had a roll and it was like tight, and then I had my stomach, and then my C-section nightmare scar formulation stuff. I kind of was expecting, because the tummy tuck only pulls the skin so much from a certain point. You understand? Above the belly button. So for most people, they get a really great snatch result from a really great tucker. You know what I mean? A really great doctor does a great MR, great tummy tuck. And there are some people who get a normal tummy tuck and they had that too, but they're happy with that result because overall their pants fit better, they look great in a bathing suit. It doesn't bother them, you know what I mean, that part of it. But for me, again, I'm always after the best surgical results that I can possibly get. So I knew that, again, this wasn't going to be even a 2 round project. As far as like the chin lipo, the neck lipo, I highly recommend that. Like 10 stars, did a wonderful job with that. Instant gratification results with that. Instant. As far as the fat transfer to the boobs, I thought that was wonderful. It's not that I'm anti-implants either. It's just that as long as I can forego those, I do want to, because there are risks with anything that you do with body modification, right? So it's like I'm looking for ways to just kind of enhance what I got going on. The fat transfer to the lips, initially, I was like crazy about. However, you have to realize when we do fat transfers, even to the breast, to the lips, whatever, it doesn't retain the fat the way that the butt does. Okay. Even hips, even the hip padding. Some people have that really, really tight skin where those hip indents are. Getting those to fill out, that's really, really hard. Lips for me, I don't really think that they hung around as well as I would have liked. And the under eye, I feel like overall, over the last, I don't know, I did this in January of 2022, like January 5th. I just had like my 3rd year anniversary of this round of surgery. And overall, I feel like it was definitely worth it. Would I like more? Yes, I would. There is new technology called like the PRP, and basically it's when they whip up your platelets from your blood, right? And they fuse it with your fat injection to have it be more retained and have it have more of a successful take. And that's something I'm kind of hoping to look into in the future as I go about more rounds of surgery. I will never ever regret getting a tummy tuck. The tummy tuck and the BBL and the breast lift were 3 things, which obviously include liposuction, guys, but those 3 things were able to completely reformulate my entire body. And it's really up to me to make sure I take it to the max. And that's kind of why I felt an urge to talk about it today, because I know I talked about on an episode about how I'm looking at that 4th round of surgery, how I really want these arms done, and a couple other little nuances I'd like achieved. It's all a time thing, Sometimes you wish as soon as you see something wrong that you want to fix it, you can get back on that table. But like in terms of like finances and the actual recovery of what you're looking at, it's one of those things that sometimes you just have to wait. And I've been in the waiting now to do it for quite some time, but I wanted to talk about it so that I could be motivated to use these last few weeks of winter to really get in that mind place of taking my results to the best that they can be, because sometimes the things that we don't do kind of almost want to outshadow the things that we have done. And that's kind of the mindset that I can be sometimes, where it's like, yeah, this looks great, but look at these arms, and grace, dude, you know what I mean? It's one of these things that people and Christians will judge you for, because it's very vain, and it has to do with the body that's passing away anyway. But when it actually affects your mental health and how you see yourself, I don't see anything wrong with it. It's like, it's your body. You're not hurting anybody, right? So I totally recommend, if you're somebody who has been interested in doing a tummy tuck, skin removal. Again, if you're somebody who had a round 1 BBL and you're not happy with your results, a lot of us get multiple rounds of lipo BBL. I would also like to emphasize on this episode again that liposuction, skin removal is not a weight loss surgery, okay? A weight loss surgery is something completely different. We basically remove the skin, and that might obviously remove, some people remove, 10 pounds of skin, 7 pounds of skin. At my worst, guys, I think in my early 20s, I was pushing 270 pounds, all right? And I lost about 90 of those pounds. And then I got pregnant and I was up to 230 pounds. And then on my first round of surgery, I was like borderline as far as like doing the surgery and getting those good results. You can't get those results that you see on the internet unless your BMI is in a place that it's actually going to show. Because even with the skin, like you have some fat, visceral fat that surrounds your organs, that cannot be lipoed. So I was really borderline in that first round. I had a BMI of 35 with the result at the end of the time and me losing an additional 20 pounds, it made a huge difference. But I was left again with all of this loose skin. So I do sometimes still get panicky about waking up and still seeing my old stomach there. I do struggle sometimes with something called body dysmorphia. And like I've shared, if you do have body dysmorphia, plastic surgery is not going to cure that. That is definitely a mind thing, it's a prayer thing. That's why taking pictures of your journey is so important because there are days, even if everything that I've had done from my worst days, I still see myself sometimes like that goblin and I have to pull up those pictures and look at the journey that I've experienced to see how far I've come. I do think that it has caused me to really keep myself in check. Like I said, I'm carrying, maybe like 5 to 10 pounds. You want to be at a goal weight when you're doing these surgeries within, 5 to 15 pounds. It's really, really hard because the fear of waking up and seeing any kind of reminder of that, like say I went out and I had a couple of cocktails, I had some pizza and some dessert, the next morning I'm in panic because I don't want to ruin these results and I can get kind of hyper about that and that can kind of steal your joy at times because I never want to ruin this investment. We're talking a lot of money, babe. You know what I'm saying? It's especially for me who's like an ordinary everyday person. I knew I wasn't going to have any more kids. That's something that usually you don't want to get a tummy tuck unless you have had your kids, right? Because then you're just going to expand that skin and they can only do one really good tummy tuck once, which is why it's so important that you pick a really great tummy tuck doctor. And I always feel very grateful talking about my experience, even though I'm not sitting here being like, I'm completely content and my life is perfect. It's not, okay? It's an up at dawn, pride swallowing siege every day to get off my booty, make choices that support me having the best results, giving myself grace and patience as I gear up for the next stage. And it's not easy. Like I've said, we're going to talk about the recovery of this round next week. And I don't know if you heard everything that I had done this round, but there's definitely a lot to unpack there next week. So, yes, my round two was lipo 360, BBL, and the hips and butt, MR, muscle repair, tummy tuck, fat transfer to the breasts that were priorly lifted in my round one, lipo of my thighs, lipo of my chin and neck, and I put that fat into my lips and into my under eye area. That was all of my round two of plastic surgery, and by far will go down as one of the most memorable experiences that I had in my life. I can't wait to share why that is next week. It's going to be a kind of harder for me to talk about because it's very vulnerable and I mean, just sharing this is very vulnerable, but I always like to just be real because people look at you and you're not always in a place to share. There's a lot of unanswered questions and they want to know your secret, but it's not just a simple, I got plastic surgery or I'm eating pineapple to lose weight. There's a lot of things that go into getting from A to B, B to C, wherever the heck I'm going, right? But I do know that I needed to talk about this today to make it real because I've kind of just been lost and I don't want to say lost because this is my life. You know what I mean? It's like I'm a stay-at-home mom. I stay home a lot. And sometimes it can seem like day after day, I'm not getting any closer to my goals. And I kind of let go of some of the drive that I have to make the best of it, just like anyone else. And I'm sorry, the winter does not help. I'm realizing that. I don't know if I've met anybody who's like, I truly love the winter. Like, yes, I like some snow. I like some white Christmas. I like a little breezy, Valentine's Day. But now that we're past that, I'm just kind of ready to stretch my legs and get grounding in and sunshine and take my walks and just have that fuller active lifestyle that really isn't easy to do in the winter months where I'm at. So it was kind of encouraging just to sit down here, remind myself how far I've come and what's ahead of me. And I hope this was educational for you in terms of like the kind of skin removal that you're maybe looking for, what kind of procedures I've had to get the results that I've had so that you can look into them yourself. And again, guys, if you have any questions about this round, my first round, plastic surgery, anything to do with that, if it's something even not what we talked about today, please jump into my inbox at the Next Level Glam podcast. Send me a DM. I'd love to help you out. It's one of those things that I'm just very passionate about because the diets and the workouts are wonderful, but when you get to that weight part, when you get to your goal part and you're not seeing those results in the mirror, plastic surgery is absolutely a wonderful thing to look into. It is a privilege that I'm very grateful to have had. And I just like the real side of it. I'm never going to be like, yes, this is going to solve all your problems. Sometimes it can give you more problems. Sometimes there's nuances. Sometimes you need another round. And I want to just ease that because some people put a lot of pressure on their instant results or just one round of surgery. And it just needs to be talked about because your favorite celebrity that you're looking at, they've had a lot of surgery. They're just not honest about it. You know what I'm saying? I don't think I'd be as confident as I was if I wouldn't have gone through with the surgery. And that's just me being real. So I'll catch you next time. Be sure to rest and grow in His grace.